Hi everyone, Andy here at Spymaster Gaming. Welcome back to another Trench Crusade video where I'm going to be exploring what we can expect from the imminent Kickstarter arriving on October 29th, 2024. I am really excited. I've been following this game since it was first announced, and every release that the team put out in terms of the sculpting gets me more and more excited, and I cannot wait for Tuesday, the 29th. It's going to be a really good Kickstarter, I feel. In this video, I'm going to be doing a bit of a dive into the different factions that are going to be available on the Kickstarter, talking about their play styles from what I've experienced so far and how the rules read, as well as focusing on some of the sculpts that have been revealed so far as well. I've linked the Trench Crusade Facebook group in the description below, so you can go and have a look and see all the wonderful artists who've contributed to designing these sculpts, so they get their fair credit as well. So, first off, we're going to be focusing on New Antioch. Now, New Antioch are the staple human faction within the setting. They are the drilled, disciplined soldiers of the Principality of New Antioch, answering to the Duke, and they play as one would expect from a standard infantry force. They do not have access to some of the bigger, more monstrous things in the game. They are the humans in the setting fighting the demons, and their profiles reflect that. You can expect to field quite a number of bodies with them. Their standard yeomen and sort of the trench moles aren't too expensive, and you can kit them out with your bolt-action rifles easily enough to get a good force. They do have some specialist troops as well, like the heavy troopers, which are a bit tougher to take care of. Equip one of them with a heavy machine gun, and you have a good base of fire to move up the board and not be too easily taken out. They're led by the lieutenant. You have to take one of them. The lieutenant is a cad of a character, and he is just amazing. And that's one of the first sculpts I want to talk about here is the lieutenant. Sword slung over his shoulder there. Probably doesn't even need a helmet. He's going to own whatever he comes across. He's got the confidence, which I like. And for someone to obviously lead a warband with that much gusto, I think, they've nailed the character design down to a T. Obviously mimics the original concept art as well. Then another one of the sculpts that I want to talk about is the Trench Cleric, so another sort of elite choice for your New Antioch force. They're all about buffing the morale of the troops around them, because obviously the humans in the setting will tend to suffer from fear, one of the game mechanics, and this just keeps them in the fight a bit longer. Lovely sculpt there for the Trench Cleric as well. Some of the other things that you can expect from a New Antioch force are the variants. Now, the variant warbands exist for all of the factions, but we haven't really seen too many of the models for them teased so far. But there's the Expeditionary Forces of Abyssinia, some of the artwork here, which you can see on screen. Really striking artwork there, and I would love to see what the models for that look like when they finally get revealed. And then you also have the Prussians and the Papal Guard as well, which have slightly different mechanics, Prussians being more shock troop based, and Papal Guard being very elite. And then you've got the Irish and Scottish variant forces as well, so quite a lot of different variants within New Antioch as a whole. So basically, to summarize them, if you want to play as the normal humans in the face of the demons, this is the faction for you, and you will have a tough time with it, but it'll be rewarding when you win. Next up, we are talking about the Trench Pilgrims. Now, they are similar to New Antioch in the sense that they are a human faction, but they are even more numerous, and they aren't disciplined. They are essentially the chaff troops that aren't sanctioned by the church in any way, but they're normal men and women who've heard the voice of God, gone to the trenches, and thought they will do their bit for the crusade. They are chaff. They are disposable. They only wear the iron capirote, or the big pointy hat with spikes in it as armor, because that's all they feel that they need to protect them. The faith will do the rest. They even have a mechanic built in where if they die on the battlefield, their standard trench pilgrim, they can get brought back as a lesser version of it, because they really are that expendable. But they do have access, unlike the New Antioch troops, to some of the more sort of twisted church creations that we can see teased out in the lore. The Metachrist within the universe is essentially a clone of Jesus, where they use the flesh and the blood to create mutated super soldiers off the back of that. And they have the trench communicants, which are like big hulking monsters with flails, and they have a cross nailed to their face, and they're a bit tougher and a bit scarier. And they also have the anchorite shrines as well, which are pilgrims that are encased in walking suits of armor. They have a penance wheel, where essentially they strap those who've been naughty in the eyes of the church to this shield as a chance to redeem themselves, and they basically get used as a human shield on a wheel, which is pretty dark. And they have a big mace as well, so they can go and hit things. That's pretty cool. So they have some monstrous things as well. A couple of the sculpts we're going to look at now, you can see the ecclesiastic prisoners. So anyone who's pissed off the church or the trench pilgrim faction they're fighting for, they get a bomb strapped to their back and they get put in handcuffs and they get told to walk to enemy lines and try and take out as many heretics as possible before they die in service of the Lord, which is very, very dark. And then we have the trench communicant as well. So similarly to the trench cleric that we saw from New Antioch, they are sort of the the disciplinarian, almost like commissar-esque, I guess, which is pretty cool as well. Really lovely sculpts there. Next up, we have the Heretic Legions. Now, this is one of the forces of hell. They are the men and women who've actually walked up to the gates of hell, have appeared on earth, been burned by it, but survived and not lost themselves to madness or death and returned stronger for it. They are the front line and the main force of the hell troops on earth. And they basically have a bit of a hybrid, I'd say, play style of between like New Antioch and then the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent, which I'll come on to later. So they have normal troops, such as like your heretic troopers, which are like your cannon fodder. You equip them in the same style as like normal troops, just give them a rifle and that. But then you also have some of the models which can cause fear as well. So you've got the heretic chorister, which I'll show you on screen now. That can cause fear. They're all about sort of like singing really like disparaging hymns and sort of like really getting into the heads of their enemies. And then they also have negative impact for anyone trying to attempt an action within 8 inches of them. So they are like sort of like a debuff model, which I think is really, really cool. Then you've got, say, the normal heretic troopers, as I mentioned, which you can see one of the sculpts here, which again, love the traditional like World War I aesthetic with the gas masks and that, but obviously with the darker sort of accessories. And then you have like the heavy troops or the anointed, one of which you can see on screen now. They're the big tough guys who can wield heavy weaponry, and they basically can act as a bit of a bullet sponge as well. So quite scary. They have access to some other nasty models as well in the forms of like war wolves, which is essentially a really, really nasty sort of like werewolf mechanical steampunk thing that can just run in and just decimate things, as well as they've got access to like the death commandos as well, which are really elite units, go in, sort of assassinate enemy leaders as well. Really cool faction, and I'd say a bit of a hybrid one. So if you do want to play Forces of Hell, but with a more human touch, maybe this is the faction for you. So next up, we have the Iron Sultanate, which is the Islamic human faction in the game. They are an interesting one because they have the core troops like the Azebs, which you can see on screen now, which you can give rifles, muskets. The muskets have special alchemical ammunition you can give to them as well, so they essentially cause extra damage, or damage is easier to cause, sorry. And then they have sort of more elite troops such as the Janissaries, which are better in melee, and you can send them in with swords to try and take care of enemies up close and personal, as it were. But one of the really cool things about this faction is the alchemical side of it, where they've created their own sort of monsters to field on the battlefield, such as the Brazen Bull, which you can see here, pumped full of chemicals and given a big gun and a big axe, and basically just told to go and kill the nearest enemy, which would be terrifying to come across. They have some really cool variant factions as well, such as the Assassins of Alamat. The Assassins are really, really scary models as well. Like, the rules are terrifying in the sense that once they get behind you or get up close to you, you're probably going to lose models because they're very, very good in close combat. They have that. They have the House of Wisdom as well, which leans more into the alchemical side of things. So they are a very, very varied faction. Personally, they're one of the ones that I'm looking forward to playing with most, just because of the variety and the gameplay styles within it. Going back to the hellish factions, we're now looking at the Cult of the Black Grail. So these guys worship Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, and their whole mechanic is around poison and sort of debuffing the enemy. Now, the core foundation for some of the mechanics in Trench Crusade is the concept of blood markers, which can be used to sort of weaken enemy dice rolls or buff your own. This is an even more nastier version than that, in the sense that they multiply if you don't get rid of them, i.e. they spread like poison, like disease. Really, really nasty mechanic. The chaff troops are like the Grail thralls, which for all intents and purposes are zombies. They're not that scary on their own, but can be fielded en masse because they're quite cheap. But then you've got some really good character units as well. So their leader is called the Lord of Tumors, which is all about handing out those debuffs, which you can see on screen now. You can see his little acolytes there collecting the pus off his back, and it's probably not going to be used for anything good. I really, really like this model, though. It's very, very flavorful. Then you've also got the likes of the Amalgam as well, which is absolutely terrifying. If you look at the profile of that within the beta rules, it can wield up to like 6 weapons, I think, and can attack for each of them. So if you're getting up close and personal with that in melee combat, you are dying. There's no way around it. So just point all the guns at it and try and take it off the board as quickly as possible. But again, another great model. And then finally, we have the last Hell faction, which has been revealed so far, which is the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. Now, the mechanics for this faction are interesting in the sense that they use something called Goetic magic. And the magic is aligned to the 7 deadly sins. So you can pick a sin for your warband to be aligned to at the start of the game, or start of the campaign, and it will give you a different spell list that you can choose from to use with some of the elite models within it. This can obviously impact the gameplay drastically. And if you want variation within a faction and want to be able to chop and change playstyles, I think this could be a very good faction for you. They have some really cool sort of like demonic sculpts. A couple of the ones that I'll put up on screen now. You've got the Praetor, which is one of the warband leaders. Again, that has access to magic. Big winged demon, very sort of like what you would class as a traditional demon. And then you've got the sorcerers as well, which you can see here. The amazing paint job that's been done here. Again, I'm really sorry that I can't remember the artist's name, but I've put the link to the Facebook group so you can see who's done such a good paint job on it, basically. Really, really characterful. They've also got access to some really quite unique troops as well, such as the Hell Knights, which you can see here. Again, classic demonic knight. Absolutely love it. There's not much more to be said. Get up close and personal and swing in. And then they also have sort of like goat demons that they can hire, as well as these weird things called pit locusts, which are like dogs, but they've got human faces and they're absolutely terrifying. Really, really good variety with that faction as well. And then the last thing I wanted to touch upon was the actual trenches themselves. So we've had a reveal over the past few days or so where the modular trench system that has been designed, which will be going part of the Kickstarter, which you can see on screen here. This is great. Not everyone has the capability to get a big hunk of foam and cut the trenches out and basically make a nice static board. But this is great to be able to just drop on the tabletop, mix it up and create different patterns with the trenches. And I think they've done a smashing job with the designs that I've seen so far. I've talked for quite a bit. I'm very excited about it. I mentioned that my favourite faction is the Iron Sultanate. That's the one I'm looking forward to fielding most. Which one of these gets you going? Which one do you think that you'll be picking up? Are you going to be picking up all of them? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you excited? It'd be really, really good to get your feedback on it. And if you wouldn't mind giving a like and subscribe to the video if you've enjoyed it. And I will see you on the next one.